Hi, I'm Pam Fox. Thank you for watching my channel. So in my last video, I talked about why you don't even need to worry about protein. And in summary, you really don't need to worry about protein if you're on a plant-based diet, if you're eating a variety of whole plant foods, because all the protein you need is in those foods. And I talked about why it's just not even in this country. Protein deficiency isn't even a thing. It's very, very rare. We do find it in countries where people are starving. They're just not getting food, so they're deficient in everything, including protein. But in this country, we do not have a problem with protein deficiency. Now, on the other hand, we do have a big problem with heart disease. It's our number one killer. Heart disease is our number one killer. Approximately 500,000 people die every year of heart disease. They drop dead of a heart attack. Happens all the time. I know people who've dropped dead of heart attacks. And these aren't just, old people like it was their time because they were old, so their heart gave out. These are people who are parents, who are grandparents, who still have a lot of good years left, and they drop dead of a heart attack. So 500,000 people every year. And, and people are worried about protein deficiency. It's ironic. Which leads me to the topic of today's video, which is, ironically, why you do need to worry about protein. So last video is why you don't need to worry about it. This video is why you do need to worry about it. So in the standard American diet, typically, if you're an American who eats, the standard American diet, it means you probably consume quite a bit of protein. You might think that you don't, but if you stop and really assess how much protein or animal foods that you're actually eating, it's probably quite a bit more than you think it is. Maybe not, but most likely it is. So why you do need to worry about protein. So I talked about heart disease. So in this country, our number one killers are heart disease, stroke. We have very high rate of diabetes, cancer. So these are some of the chronic diseases that affect us the most. And if you think about it, in this country, in America, where we live, and this includes other countries like Europe and Canada and Australia as well, because they eat kind of standard American diet similar to what we eat. You have a lot of disease, don't you? Think about it. Besides those top four that I just mentioned, we have a lot of autoimmune disease, and we have diseases that the doctors are just slapping a name on because they're not even sure, what it is. And so we have a lot of disease, a lot of chronic disease in this country, and we oftentimes will question, why is that? Actually, we don't question it enough, in my opinion. But when we do question it, we think, well, it's genes or genetics, or it's, toxins, all the toxins in the environment. But we rarely stop and question the food that we eat. When it's the food, we eat multiple times throughout the day. We eat usually in this country every single day. We need to stop and look at the food. And these diets that are high in animal foods, high in junk foods, which is an important factor as well. But I'm going to specifically be focusing on animal foods today. And so we have all of this disease, and we have healthcare costs just, skyrocket, and we have insurance rates skyrocketing, and we have disease skyrocketing. And so, what if it had something to do with the food we ate? And what if it specifically had something to do with animal protein? And I know a lot of people will hear me say this, and they will think, well, that's dumb. You're not very smart, or I don't know where you're getting your information. The truth of the matter is that a plant-based diet is the most nutritious way that human beings can eat. And we know this now. It's just not mainstream knowledge yet. And we also know that animal protein, there's a link between animal protein and disease, unfortunately. Now, what is in animal foods that we can benefit from? Well, the first thing you think of is protein. But the fact of the matter is that the animals get their protein. The animals are high in protein because, let me back up. the first thing we think of is protein. The fact of the matter is that we can get all the protein that the human body needs from plants. And I'm not just talking about beans and nuts. I'm talking about fruits, vegetables, grains, beans, nuts. They all have protein in them. And we don't need this high amount of protein that everyone seems to think that we need. Think about it. There's no such thing as protein deficiency in this country. So what else can the human body benefit from animal foods? Okay, so protein. There's also vitamins and minerals in animal foods. But how do they get the vitamins and minerals? They get it from eating the plants. Or they get supplemented. Conventional livestock farming, oftentimes they will supplement the animals with, supplements, so we get our vitamins and minerals that way too. And we can just bypass the middleman and just eat the plants and not have to participate in the exploitation and the abuse and the killing of animals. So what else? What else does the human body require from animal foods? Really nothing. Really nothing. There's very little to no water in animal foods unless you're looking at milk. There's no fiber in animal foods, which is very, very important in the human diet, that we need fiber. There's little to no carbohydrate in animal foods, unless, again, you're looking at dairy. There's some carbs there. Human body relies on carbohydrate for fuel. The human brain relies 100% on glucose for fuel, which we get from plants, from carbs, from good carbs. I'm not talking about processed foods. I'm talking about plants. So there's very little that animal foods can offer us in terms of benefiting the human body and benefiting health. So why do we need to worry about protein? Well, again, I mentioned that there are links between animal protein and disease. And again, I'm going to link a bunch of sources below. And of course, my sources are going to back up what I have to say. And you can go and you can do your own research. But I would highly suggest to you, I would highly emphasize that you always know and trust your sources. So if you just go to a site and you read what they have to say, and then you go, oh, that sounds good, okay. And then you just rely on that information. It may be a bad source. So you have to know and trust your sources. And I personally get all of my nutrition information, not all of it, but my number one go-to site is nutritionfacts.org, and I'll link that below. And it's all about nutrition, plant-based nutrition, as it relates to disease. Dr. Michael Greger, again, he just takes the studies, the peer-reviewed studies published in scientific journals, and he summarizes them. And they're all about nutrition, plant-based nutrition, as it relates to disease. So it's a great go-to place if you have a question about soy or about protein or about, how it relates to cancer or this disease or that disease. If there's been a study, he will summarize it and he'll put it on his site. So he is a great source. And then I also go to doctors who are members of the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. These doctors, they're not considered quacks. These doctors are revered, renowned. They're doing legendary work in their respective fields. I talk about these guys all the time, but Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn is doing legendary work in reversing heart disease, not just treating, managing with prescription medications or surgery. He's reversing heart disease with plant-based nutrition. Dr. Neal Bernard is doing legendary work with diabetes, not just treating or managing with pharmaceutical drugs. He's reversing and curing diabetes with plant-based nutrition. And then, Dr. John McDougall with cancer and multiple sclerosis. And the list goes on. And I will link some of those below. But it's the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. And this is just, a small handful of doctors that understand the truth of what's happening. And they're trying to make this go mainstream. And it will eventually. It's going to take some time. But I will finish up with Dr. Colin Campbell and how, part of his life's work, he is one of the authors of the China study you may have heard of. He wrote the book Whole. But they are able to, in a laboratory, they're able to take lab rats, give them cancer, and they're able to turn off and turn on cancer. They're able to turn it on, they're able to turn it off. How? They turn it on, they give the rats cancer, and they're able to grow and spread tumors with casein, which is a protein from milk that is widely available, widely consumed. They're able to turn that cancer on with milk. They're able to turn it off with broccoli. Okay, they're able to turn it on, they're able to turn it off, which is a remarkable thing that they're able to turn on and turn off cancer with these different foods. So I'm just here again I have this channel because I think this is a very important message. People all around me are sick and they're going to continue to get sick. And the number one way that you can reverse and prevent disease is through food. We know this now. And remember, it's a lot easier to prevent disease than it is to cure cancer, for example. Now with diabetes and heart disease, they're able to cure these diseases within a relatively short amount of time on a plant-based diet. With cancer, however, if you have a particular type of cancer or an extended, or like a phase 4, stage 4 cancer or something like that, it's a lot harder to cure with a plant-based diet, but it's a lot easier to prevent with a plant-based diet. And what else did I want to say about cancer? It just popped into my head and then popped out. I don't think I'm going to remember, but I just want to encourage you that if I've struck a chord with you and you think to yourself, well, I'd like to go on a vegan diet. This all sounds good. It makes sense to me. I am sick. I do need to lose some weight. It's not nearly as hard. For me, I'm just flabbergasted how easy it was. It was so easy. The weight came off. The healing began. The energy rose. And I have become, honestly, I've just become a full throttle, dedicated vegan, dedicated to spreading this message, dedicated to helping anyone that's willing to take my help. And to try this. So I'm here to tell you, it's really not that hard. It's so easy, and the food is delicious. Yes, there is a period of time. For me, it did take a couple of months to reset my palate. For some people, it takes longer than others. I think, maybe the older you are, the more, deeply you're rooted in your, in your diet. Maybe you eat a lot of salt like I did. It takes longer to reset your palate and begin to really eat vegan foods and go, wow, this is delicious, and I can really eat as much of this as I want. I can have more, I can have more, I can have more. Okay, and I'm still not going to, gain weight, and I'm still going to promote healing and prevent, disease in my body. Isn't that worth it? It's so worth it. And I get so excited about this because not only is it worth it, it's so enjoyable. It's so enjoyable to be vegan. The benefits are miraculous and great, but it's so enjoyable along the way. It really is. My husband and I just got back from a vacation. People keep asking me how my vacation was, and I keep finding myself saying the food was great. It was really the highlight of the trip. One of the things I love to do when I go on vacation is just really enjoy food and eat a lot. And boy, I did. And I ate vegan the whole time. I ate vegan foods, and man, gone for a week, one meal out of a complete week of breakfast, lunch, and dinner. One meal was a bomb. It was a soy grilled tofu burger with grilled pineapple and avocado, and it just wasn't very good. And it had big chunks of onions in it, and I don't like onions. So anyway, out of an entire week, only one meal was a bomb, and everything else was just so good, so good. And I didn't gain any weight on my trip. I weighed myself as soon as I got back, and I weigh the same today as I did when I left. So even though I ate a lot of food, and it was actually pretty high fat food. I mean, I wasn't eating, my typical vegan foods where they're low in fat and high in carb. When you eat at a restaurant, typically they're higher in fat. So I think that's all I have to say today. Why you do need to worry about protein, the link between, that's what I wanted to say, the link between animal protein and cancer, breast cancer. We know that animal protein causes breast cancer. We know that animal protein causes prostate cancer. And of course, we know the correlation between animal foods and heart disease and diabetes. And we know these things. So plant-based is where it's at. So I want to thank you for watching, and I want to tell you that you can do it.